And for the last time, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the XEVMPD EV webinar for sponsors of clinical trials. My name is Veronica Baker. I am one of the XEVMPD leads, business leads, together with my colleague Marcos Fernandez Gomez, and I will be today's presenter. A few things I would like to mention first. Please note, as you may have heard already, this session is being recorded and it will be made available through the EMA corporate website and on our YouTube channel. Also, you will be able to ask questions throughout the session using our interaction tool, which is Slido. Please do note that the interaction is completely voluntary in Slido. You may opt to remain anonymous. However, if you do choose to use Slido, please know that you do consent to the processing of your personal data as it is explained in the EMA data privacy statement for Slido. In order for you to join Slido, you can either scan the QR code that you can see on your screens now, or you can also type in the code that you can see at the end of each slide of this presentation. If you do provide your questions, please make sure that you only do this through Slido. If you want to make sure that your question is answered, it should be upvoted. Please also make sure that you check if some other participant already submitted this question, so we do not have lots of questions which are of the same nature and we need to answer those. Please note that the questions will be shown on the screen and also managed live in the Q&A session. My EMA colleagues in the background will attempt to address the questions in writing throughout the session. However, please note that some of the questions can only be answered by myself, which is the presenter, so I will be able to do it only at the end of the session. Also, we might need other colleagues through different services to provide either an input for a question to be answered by us or to answer that question. So please know that we might not be able to address all of the questions today. However, if you do have a specific question on your issue or case, we would urge you to contact us through the service desk in order for your question to be tracked. It will be assigned to the relevant team, and also it can be investigated and we can respond accordingly. With regards to the material sharing, please note that the presentation, the first draft, was already shared with you on the SPOR portal document section, and it is also available on the EMA events webpage. The version you will see today, which is the latest version, will be uploaded in the next couple of days. With regards to recordings, these will also be available at the EMA YouTube channel and also on the EMA events page. As you are aware, we have been holding a full week of SPOR webinars. We started with the SPOR data governance, followed by the referentials management service, substance management service, organizational management service. Yesterday, we had the XEVMPD webinar for marketing authorization holders. Today, we have the XEVMPD webinar for sponsors. And we have the last but not least webinar on the SPOR API on Monday. What are the goals of today's session? It is to recap the XEVMPD submission requirements and processes for DMPs. Also, I will share with you an XEVMPD status overview and provide you with information on the relationship between XEVMPD and CTIS, and also remind sponsors of the actions that need to be taken with regard to their XEVMPD data. As for agenda, after the introduction to XEVMPD and pre-submission requirements, we will talk a little bit about the mandatory reporting requirements and also the XEVMPD submission process. I will share with you some XEVMPD statistics. I will tell you where you can find documentation related to your XEVMPD submissions and how to request help. We will talk about XEVMPD data in CTIS and what is the connection there. And after a short break, I will provide further XEVMPD status update, and we will finish with some key takeaways and conclusions, and also, as I mentioned before, a Q&A session. With regards to introduction to XEVMPD and pre-submission requirements, what is the XEVMPD? Well, XEVMPD, sometimes referred to as the Article 57 database, is a centralized source of information on authorized and unauthorized medicines. With regards to the authorized medicinal product data, this is submitted in the XEVMPD by marketing authorization holders. Unauthorized data, to which we refer to in the XEVMPD terms as a development data. So if I refer to development data or development product, please note that refers to an unauthorized medicinal product information. This data is submitted and maintained in the XEVMPD by sponsors. Please note that the EMA does not enter development medicinal product data in the XEVMPD on behalf of sponsors. With regards to substance records, these are submitted and maintained in the XEVMPD by the EMA's Substance Management Service data stewards. A marketing authorization holder and sponsor organization records are submitted and maintained by MAH and sponsors. And referential terms are submitted and maintained by the EMA's Referentials Management Service data stewards and also sponsors. However, this is related to development terms only. I will provide further information on what development terms are later. So what are the pre-submission requirements? Well, as you might be aware, the XEVMPD can be used by organizations that are registered with EudraVigilance for medicinal product reporting. And these organizations must also be registered in the organization management system. Please note that clinical research organization, IT vendor, and a third-party service provider cannot be registered in EudraVigilance with their own profile. These companies must be registered in EudraVigilance under the profile of the marketing authorization holder or sponsor. So any data that are submitted by these organizations are owned in the XEVMPD by the actual sponsor organization. User management is done in the EMA account management portal, to which we sometimes refer as IAM. What you can see on screen now is the simplified overview of the steps that an organization must take in order to be registered in EudraVigilance for medicinal product reporting. One person from the organization must attend the XEVMPD training and then pass an exam, which we refer to, which will lead to a notification of a successful completion of the XEVMPD knowledge evaluation, which is something that is required from one person during the registration of the organization with EudraVigilance. Please note that this person who needs to obtain this does not have to be the responsible person. It can be any user from the company. Then the first, which is an unaffiliated user, must register via the EMA account management portal, and that user must affiliate themselves with the organization, with the sponsor organization in your case. If the organization is not registered in OMS, then you need to create a change request to create the organization in OMS. That user will then request the responsible person's role for that organization using IAM and request registration with EudraVigilance for the medicinal product reporting. As part of that, you are required to provide certain documentation. You also need to specify what is going to be your submission mode, whether it's going to be gateway or web trader submission. And then when the registration is completed, additional users will be able to register under that organization's profile as users that want to access the XEVMPD. Please also note that your request through IAM must be then approved by the responsible person. It is not the EMA who approves the access of users for the individual organizations. It is the responsible person. With regards to XEVMPD training, this is available in two forms. One is the virtual training course, which is run by our training organizer, the Drug Information Association. And we also provide an e-learning, which is managed by the EMA training team. In both training courses, the separate courses are available for marketing authorization holders. The difference is that the virtual training course is a paid-for training course. It is also trainer-led. And the knowledge evaluation at the end of the training course is performed by the trainers. There is no limit on the number of participants that can attend from one organization. With regards to the e-learning training, that is a free training course. It is based on self-study of the documents that are published on the training webpage and available. And also users registered for the knowledge evaluation using the EMA service desk. We normally allow 5 people from the same organization to register for this training. The reason being that the notification of the successful completion of the XEVMPD knowledge evaluation is requested only from one person during the organization's initial registration in EudraVigilance. That means that not every user that is registered for that organization as a user needs to have this notification. The person who does have this notification can and should train others in the organization. And also, if the EMA training team would have to process the registration for every single person who would like to register for the training, we would not really have time to do anything else, in all honesty. So as I mentioned before, there is absolutely no limit on the number of participants to register for the virtual training course. So if you do want to have more people certified within your organization, I would strongly encourage you to attend the virtual training course run by the DIA. You can find all the information about the available courses on the XEVMPD training webpage. Oops, sorry. What are the mandatory reporting requirements? Well, as you might know, submission of medicinal product information in the XEVMPD by sponsors is required as per CT3, as we refer to it. The detailed guidance on the collection, verification, and presentation of adverse event reaction reports and arising from clinical trials on medicinal products for human use, and also from regulation number 536 from 2014. Every sponsor organization must have a person responsible for maintaining the EudraVigilance profile of the sponsor organization, whether the sponsor is commercial or non-commercial organization in the EudraVigilance system. If a sponsor organization does not have a responsible person registered at their organization profile, then the users from that organizations cannot access the XEVMPD data entry tool. So this is very important. You must have the responsible person. That person must self-register using our EMA through the EMA account management system. You can also have a trusted deputy registered under the organization profile. Please note that unlike the QPPV, which is referenced in authorized medicinal product entries in the XEVMPD, the responsible person information is not referenced in development medicinal products in XEVMPD. You should also note that if the responsible person changes within the organization must nominate a new responsible person within 10 calendar days. If there is no responsible person, the person that is no longer the responsible person cannot be removed from EudraVigilance until the replacement is fully registered. So please be also aware of that. Very general submission principles. I will talk more in detail about those with regards to the submission of medicinal product information in XEVMPD. That if an active substance is used in a clinical trial in a new pharmaceutical dose form or a new strength, then you need to submit development medicinal product information in the XEVMPD. Also, if you are using in your clinical trial here in the EU or EEA a product that is not authorized in the EU and EEA, then you must submit the product information in the XEVMPD. What are the submission methods? How do you get your data into XEVMPD? Well, you need to submit the data in XEVMPD using an extended EudraVigilance medicinal product report messages. We refer to those as XEVPRMs, and I do apologize in advance. I will probably be using this short term quite often during this presentation. XEVPRMs can be generated using either in-house tools, which are provided by gateway providers, or also, as I mentioned before, by the tool that is made available by the agency, and that tool is called XEVMPD Data Entry Tool. In short, it's EVWeb for Art57 and XEVMPD submissions. The XEVPRMs then can be submitted to the EMA using the EudraVigilance gateway, and again, either through in-house tools where you have gateway-to-gateway connection, then through the XEVMPD Data Entry Tool, and also using EVPost functionality, which is available in the restricted area of the EudraVigilance website. So what is EVWeb? What is the XEVMPD Data Entry Tool? Well, it is available to registered users only. you have to, before you actually able to access this tool, you have to perform certain steps, which include you need to set up a multi-factor authentication. You also need to request access to the XEVMPD production environment using the EMA account management portal. That access, as I mentioned before, is approved by the responsible person. And you also need to install ActiveX, which is a software provided by the EMA on your computer. And then you need to use an IETAP extension as per instruction, which we've already put together and provided in the EV restricted area in the dedicated section called XEVMPD support section. When you submit XEV-PRMs in the XEVMPD, you will receive acknowledgements. We defined 3-level acknowledgements, or there are 3 different types of acknowledgement. The first one is generated automatically by the EMA's gateway. To that one we refer as the MDN acknowledgement. The second acknowledgement is generated only when the XEV-PRM is processed by our system. It is in an XML format and it contains information on the result of the electronic submission and also the result of the operation type that you requested for the entity that you either submitting or maintaining. So, for example, if you inserted a development medicinal product in the XEVMPD and the insert was successful, the acknowledgement will say entity inserted successfully and will also contain the EV code that was assigned to that medicinal product. If you have been updating a development medicinal product that already exists in the XEVMPD and therefore an EV code is already assigned, you will see in the acknowledgement that there's a text that says that product with EV code 12345 was updated successfully. If there was an issue and the submission for some reason was not successful or your update or insert wasn't successful, the acknowledgement will also provide a short description of the issue, which means you should then go correct the data as required and resubmit your message. Where do you find your acknowledgements? Well, WebTrader user, and those are the users that use the XEVMPD data entry tool to perform their submissions and receive their acknowledgements, will find the acknowledgement in the WebTrader inbox or archived inbox. That's a very important location where you also need to look. Because in the WebTrader inbox, you have different times. You can find the inbox for the last 7 days of submissions. You can find inbox for the last 30 days of submissions. You also have an inbox where you can find all of your submissions. So please make sure that if you are looking for an acknowledgement a few days after your submission, you always go into the right subsection of the archived inbox. Gateway users should check with their gateway providers where these acknowledgements are stored. With regards to the initial submission process for development medicinal product, the sponsor must enter and submit DMP data in the XEVMPD as per the investigator's brochure or as per information in the investigator's brochure. You prepare your message, you provide the information in the individual data fields based on the guidance that we provided in the guidance documents for sponsors. You validate your message. This means that the system will then automatically check if all the mandatory data is provided, and you submit the message. Again, the system will then process the message, and the acknowledgement number 1 and acknowledgement number 2 is then generated. You will receive the acknowledgement, as I mentioned before, either in your WebTrader inbox or in your internal tool, and you will see if the insert was successful or unsuccessful. If the insert is successful, the EV code will be assigned. You will also find the EV code in the acknowledgement. The entry in the XEVMPD will be automatically flagged by the system as valid, which means that the product entry will then become available for use to support our pharmacovigilance processes. And also, maybe for you, the most important part, the development EV code will be retrievable in CTIS the following day. Recently, I have actually been told that it could take up to 48 hours for that EV code to appear in CTIS, so please bear it in mind. And usually, it would be overnight. So if you submit a medicinal product information and you have the EV code available in XEVMPD today, you should be able to find the EV code in CTIS tomorrow. However, if that doesn't happen, please wait up to 48 hours since your submission just to make sure the EV code is there. If your insert, however, was unsuccessful, you will see why it was not successful in the acknowledgement. You should then review your file, you should change the data as necessary and submit it. You can also ask any question and request support through our EMA service desk, and I will provide further information on how to do it and how to use service desk and the individual forms that we use in the service desk at a later stage during this presentation. With regards to submission principles related to unauthorized medicinal products, as I mentioned before, if an active substance is studied in a clinical trial in the EU or EA in a new dose form, you must submit a new development medicinal product record in the XEVMPD. If you're using an active substance in a new concentration, which is not yet authorized, it is the same case. You have to submit in the DMP a record, in the XEVMPD, a DMP record in the XEVMPD. Also, you need to be aware that if several sponsors are using the same medicinal product in different clinical trials, then each of the sponsors should submit the DMP information in the XEVMPD. I have prepared a couple of examples because sometimes this is easier to understand if you have a concrete example. So with regards to example 1, if you have an active substance that is studied in a clinical trial in the same pharmaceutical dose form, however, in different strengths, what I, as an XEVMPD business team member, would like to see in the XEVMPD are 3 different development medicinal product records, each with their assigned development product EV code, referring to that particular, which in this case is the same administrable pharmaceutical dose form, the same active substance, however, the different strengths. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you see that the same active substance, substance 1, is studied in the same pharmaceutical form, which is capsule, and it is studied in the strength of 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams, and 150 milligrams. This is why 3 different development products were created with their each assigned development product EV code. On the right-hand side, you can see an incorrect submission where you would submit just 1 development medicinal product, which means that only 1 development product is assigned. That product references to exactly the same administrable pharmaceutic product, which would be a capsule, with the same active ingredient, with the 3 different strengths. You should know that development medicinal products which reference multiple administrable pharmaceutical products and the same active substance, albeit in different strengths, should be submitted only for combination products. So, for example, if you have a tablet and a topical cream, which are both part of the same package to be used together by the patient, then in that case, I would definitely expect to have 1 development medicinal product referencing 2 administrable pharmaceutical forms with the same substance, different forms. However, not as per the case scenario that I mentioned earlier. Practical example number 2, if an active substance is studied in a clinical trial in different pharmaceutical dose forms and in the same strength, then as you can see again, I would expect to see in the XEVMPD 3 different development products with 3 different development product EV codes assigned. 1 referencing, for example, the pharmaceutical form, which would be a capsule. The other one referencing the other pharmaceutical form. In this case, we have used the example of a film-coated tablet. And if this active substance is also studied as a solution for injection, I would like to see that in the 3rd development medicinal product as another solution for injection in this particular case. As you can see, the active substance is exactly the same. The dosage is exactly the same. It's only the pharmaceutical form that is different. On the right-hand side, again, what you can see that incorrectly 1 development product will be submitted. So 1 development product EV code is available. And then what is showing to me on the screen is that this product, the patient basically receives 3 pharmaceutical forms. The patient receives a capsule, a film-coated tablet, and a solution for injection, all of which contain the same substance and also the same active in the same active concentration, in the same concentration. Apologies. So this to me would be an incorrect submission. And as for the case scenario number 3, as you can see, if you have sponsor A, sponsor B, and sponsor C using the same active ingredient, in this case substance XYZ, in the same strength, which would be 100 milligrams, and in the same pharmaceutical form, which would be a capsule, used through the same route of administration as an oral use, I would expect to see 3 different development medicine records submitted by each of the sponsor in the XEVMPD. Each EV code will be applicable to that relevant sponsor. So one to sponsor A, one to sponsor B, one to sponsor C, and can be maintained only by that particular sponsor. So by sponsor A, sponsor B, sponsor C. Sponsor A will not be able to see the development record submitted by sponsor A or C, etc. So you always need to think that in the XEVMPD, anything submitted as development is considered confidential. If you as a sponsor choose to share the EV code of the development medicinal product that you've inserted in the XEVMPD with other parties with which you may have your agreements, that is fine as long as it's done outside our system. But me from the EMA, I would not be able to share with a requester the EV code that was entered in the XEVMPD by another sponsor. So by, if a user from another company contacts me through the EMA service desk and asks for a development EV code of a product that was submitted by another sponsor, I will not be able to provide that requester with the EV code. With regards to medicinal products that are already authorized and studied in a clinical trial in the EU EEA, we need to differentiate between whether the product that is studied is authorized in the EU or whether it is authorized outside the EU EEA. If you are using in your clinical trial a product which is authorized outside the EU and EEA, then you must insert the DMP record to reflect the information about this product in the XEVMPD. Why is that? Because we do not necessarily know what are the products authorized in third world countries or in countries outside EU EEA. So this is why you need to submit the information in XEVMPD to enable us to actually see what is it that you study in your clinical trial. If, however, you're already using in your clinical trial a product which is authorized in the EU and EEA, and if it is studied as authorized, so you make absolutely no change to the pharmaceutical form, active ingredient, or concentration, then you do not need to submit a development medicinal product record in the XEVMPD, because the information about the authorized product should already be available in the XEVMPD as it was provided by the marketing authorization holder. However, if you change something within that product, so for example, you have a product that was authorized as a film-coated tablet containing substance XYZ and 100 milligrams, and you change the concentration of that tablet to, for example, 200 milligrams, or you add another active ingredient, you basically change something with that authorized product, then you need to submit a new DMP record in the XEVMPD because you are changing the structure of the already authorized product. With regards to auxiliary medicinal products, please note that these are authorized products and therefore the above applies. Quite often we receive a question related to the submission of placebo, so I just wanted to clarify that you do not need to submit in the XEVMPD information on placebos. Now, when you're making your submissions and you, for example, using your XEVMPD data entry tool, EVWeb, if you're looking for your organization, because you must reference a sponsor organization in your development medicinal product entry, and you cannot find this organization, you have to insert the organization in the XEVMPD in order for you to be able to reference it in your product. So if you cannot find the sponsor organization that you require to reference in your submission, What you need to do first is to check if your organization is already registered in OMS. And if not, you have to request the addition of the organization via a change request in OMS. What you should do afterwards, you should insert the organizational information as it is entered in OMS via an XEVPRM. So you submit it in XEVMPD yourself, and you reference the log ID, which was assigned to your organization in OMS, in the comment field of the organization entity. Where can you find the list of sponsor organizations in XEVMPD? Well, you can look in the XEVMPD sponsors lookup tables. You can also go to the OMS portal and find your organization entity there. Please note that the EV code of an organization can be found in the mapping section of that specific organization in OMS. So you should submit your organization entity through an XEVPRM. Once again, when you submit it, you will receive an acknowledgement which confirms if the insert of the organization was successful or not. And then you will be able to reference the organization in your development medicinal product entry. With regards to submission of substances, again, you need to reference an active substance in your development medicinal product entry in the XEVMPD. If you cannot find the substance that you require to make the submission, what you need to do is to request the addition of the substance information via an EMA service desk request for SMS services. So you have to request the addition through the EMA service desk. You need to find the relevant request for SMS services. You need to provide some information about the substance, provide also supporting documentation, and submit your request. My colleagues from the SMS team will then assess the request, and if the request is approved, then an EV code will be assigned to that substance, and it will be shared with you. The data is then also updated in SMS and is published in the consuming systems such as IRIS or CTIS, and also the substance is available in the XEVMPD. If your request for insert or insert of a new or an update of an existing substance is rejected, then my colleagues will provide you with the reason for injection, and it is explained to your sponsor what maybe you should use as a substance instead. Where do you find the substances which are available in XEVMPD? Well, again, in the XEVMPD substance lookup tables, we have approved substances, and we also have a list of development substances. And also in the SMS portal, you can go and find the SMS substance extracts. With regards to how to submit a term in the XEVMPD. So by a term, we're referring to a pharmaceutical form, route of administration, or an ATC code. I also want to specify that in the XEVMPD, we have 3 different categories which can be applied to a term. So a pharmaceutical form, for example, that is a standard term, which is a term that is already published. It's part of a standard terminology by an official maintenance organization. For example, for a pharmaceutical form, it is the EDQM. For an ATC code, it's WHO. We also have proposed terms. So these are terms for which an application was submitted to the maintenance organization. However, the term is not yet approved or published. And last but not least, we also have development terms. These are terms which are under development by you, by sponsors, and these are considered confidential. So, for example, if you are working on a new pharmaceutical form, which might be edible paper, you can have an active ingredient which is part of an edible paper. If this is a term that you would like to later have approved, you will have to insert that term in XEVMPD as a development term. When you submit the application to EDQM, you would then request for that term to be submitted in the XEVMPD as a proposed term. And when the term is actually approved, then it should be submitted in the XEVMPD as a standard term. So every time you're looking for an XEVMPD every time you're looking for a term in the XEVMPD, what you should also check is if that term that you need, the pharmaceutical form, the ATC code, or the route of administration, cannot be remapped to another existing term. RMS colleagues have actually prepared some mapping extracts which are available in the RMS portal, which will help you with this. And if that term, you also need to assess if the term is missing in RMS or if it's missing only in XEVMPD. So if the term is missing in RMS, then you need to submit a new term change request using the RMS portal. If the term is available in RMS, but it's missing in XEVMPD, then you submit an update term change request through the RMS portal. My RMS colleagues will then validate your request and they will either approve it or reject it. If the request is approved, then the term is inserted in XEVMPD. As I mentioned before, it will be either a standard term or a proposed term. The EV code will be shared with you. And the data is updated in RMS also because the terms in the mapping sections of the RMS terms also reference the EV codes. If the request, however, is rejected, the reason for rejection is provided. In some cases, it could be that the term is already or can be replaced by another term, and you will be provided with the different term to be used in your submission. Where you can find the list of the pharmaceutical forms, routes of administration, and ATC codes which are available in XEVMPD. Well, as I mentioned before, it's in the XEVMPD data entry tool where you go to pharmaceutical forms, routes of administration, or ATC lookup tables, and also in RMS where you have the RMS list available. As for the terms that can be mapped to other standard terms, these are available in the document section of the RMS portal. So please have a look there before you actually consider requesting a new term to be added in the XEVMPD through the RMS portal. I've already touched up on the development term submission process. So just to summarize, this is something that you can submit as sponsor. You have this option available in the XEVMPD data entry tool. And if you're a gateway user, you can also submit a development term in the XEVMPD through the gateway. However, you need to consider that these terms are, because they are under development, can only be referenced in development medicinal products. These terms must not match any current or standard term, any current standard or proposed term, which is already present in the XEVMPD. So if you are trying to submit in the XEVMPD a pharmaceutical form as a development term, however, that particular pharmaceutical form is already available in the XEVMPD as a proposed term or as a standard term, your submission would be rejected by the system. And your acknowledgement would say, this term already exists, or this pharmaceutical form already exists in XEVMPD as a standard or proposed term. Reference this one in your product submission instead. Okay, so how to submit terms or pharmaceutical forms, route of administration, or ATC code, which are under development in the XEVMPD. Well, you just create an XEVPRM with an insert of the new pharmaceutical form, route of administration, or ATC code as a development form. Then you submit it. The system will provide you with the acknowledgement, and you will check if the term was successfully submitted or not, and if an EV code was assigned to that development term. Please also note that when you're making your submission of your development product data, you should always reference standard terms in your product submissions. If a standard term is available, you always select the standard term. If no standard term is available, however, you have the proposed term, you should reference the proposed term. With regards to attachments, first thing I would like to mention is that the submission of attachments for development medicinal products is optional. If you, however, wish to submit an attachment with your development product entry, it should be the investigator's brochure. The format should be ideally a PDF. It can also be a Word document. And you need to submit it again through an XEVPRM. Please note that in the XEVMPD data entry tool, so in EVWeb, you must, when you submit in an attachment, you must make a reference to that attachment at least in one of your product entries. So you cannot submit an attachment by itself through an XEVPRM, submit it in EVWeb. You will have to also insert the product, and that product will have to reference the attachment if this is what you want to do. If you're looking for the attachments that are available in XEVMPD for your organization, you can find these attachments in the attachment section, in the attachment lookup table of the XEVMPD data entry tool. Now, a few quick statistics. In 2023, we have received just over 2,500 new development medicinal products in the XEVMPD. In 2024, we have received 2,269 so far. This is up to date. And in total, we have in the XEVMPD something like 18,600 development medicinal product entries which are not nullified. In terms of customer support, we closed 250 DMP submission related tickets via the service desk in 2023, apologies. And so far in Q1 and Q2 of this year, we have closed 169 tickets. With regards to compliance, 97% of the requests for information that we received were met, were with the SLAs that we met. 80% of the requests for services also met the SLA, and 78% of incidents also met the SLA. The overall compliance is within the target score. Please note that it's not always us responding to these tickets. We have tickets where we need to request support from other teams. So we either assign the tickets to other team, or we need to wait for them to come back with some information that we requested. This is why we need to pause the SLA. We need to put the ticket on hold. And then we reopen the ticket again and we provide the answer. This is why, for example, only 78% of incidents met the SLAs. You will not necessarily always have 100% of SLAs that were met for these tickets. With regards to where to find documentation and how you can request help. So documentation is published on the EMA corporate website. There is a dedicated webpage for you for sponsors with regards to XEVMPD submissions, where you can find the guidance document for sponsors as well as the FAQ document for sponsors. You can also find information on how to register with EudraVigilance for product reporting on the EudraVigilance How to Register webpage. I have also included some helpful steps and all the links to the documents that you need to look at in the guidance document for sponsors. So if there's only 2 documents that you will have to read, it would be the submission requirements for sponsor document and then also the FAQ document. On the EMA account management portal, you will have a guidance on how you can obtain access to EMA systems, so how to request access to XEVMPD in your case. And also you can create a new EMA account and request the SPOR user role in that portal. As I've mentioned previously, we do have an EV restricted area in our EudraVigilance website. And there you can find not only access to the EV services, so to EVWeb, then to all the other tools which we have, such as XEVMPD export and bulk update tool, but you also have a user support section and the technical documentation, which tells you what you need to do to initiate the setup in order for you to actually access the XEVMPD data entry tool. With regards to training opportunities, you can have a look at the EMA info channel, which contains the videos of the SPOR webinars and also some tips and tricks with the questions raised from users during these sessions. And as I mentioned before, we do have the XEVMPD training webpage, where you have all the available training course dates. You also have the training documentation, step-by-step guides, and most importantly, for those of you using the XEVMPD data entry tool, you have the manual with regards how to use EVWeb. So that manual also shows you where you need to click and how you actually need to submit the information using the XEVMPD data entry tool. And last but not least, to request information or support with your XEVMPD data management, or report any technical issue with XEVMPD related application in this case, you would have to do that through a ServiceNow portal, which is part of the EMA Service Desk. In the EMA Service Desk application, or ServiceNow as we call it, if you need to request support with XEVMPD data, you can either go and find the form which is called the request for XEVMPD Article 57 services. You can also request information related to XEVMPD, and you can also find a dedicated form through which you report a technical issue with XEVMPD. Let's talk about the request for Article 57 services form. You should use this particular form to request XEVMPD data. For example, if you need to find an EV code of an authorized medicinal product, or if you need to find an EV code that is assigned to a substance in the XEVMPD, if you need to request an XEVPRM acknowledgement because you did not receive it or you cannot find it, you can also request it through this dedicated form. You can also then request support with the management of the data that's in the XEVMPD. So, for example, if you cannot nullify an entity in the XEVMPD, for example, if you need to nullify a sponsor organization that's in the XEVMPD, you can't do that. You will request it through this form and we will do it on your behalf. And last but not least, you can request through this dedicated form the registration for the XEVMPD e-learning training. Okay, so this will mean that we provide you with all the necessary documentation on how to complete the training, how to access XCOM for training purposes, and we will provide you with the documents that you need to use in order for you to obtain the knowledge evaluation, etc. What I want to mention is also that the XEVMPD business team has 5 working days SLA to deal with these requests. However, as I mentioned previously, if we need to assign your ticket to another team, or if we need to have input from another team, we will have to pause the SLA. We need to put that ticket on hold, and we need to wait for either you or our colleagues to come back to us. So this is why the 5 working days SLA can sometimes be extended. In case of, for example, the training requests, please know that participants have up to 2 months to complete the knowledge evaluation, which means that your ticket through which you requested this knowledge evaluation could, in theory, be open for up to 2 months, because we have to wait for you to provide us with the documents that we need to evaluate. Okay? With regards to requests for information, you can, or asking a question, you have to use the form that is called request for information. In that form, you will have a dedicated section which is called service, and in that service you should type in or select SPOR. And with regards to service offering, you should select XEVMPD / Article 57. That will ensure that that particular ticket will be assigned to our XEVMPD team. It will not be assigned to any other team. So if you put incorrect information in those 2 sections, that ticket will be traveling around the EMA until it possibly gets to us, because it will go from different teams. Okay, so it's very important that you select the correct values in this form. And now, what can you request when you're using this form? Well, it's information related to the guidance process, to the processes or to the guidance with regards to your DMP submissions. You can also ask us where you can find XEVMPD related information. You can ask us how to use the data entry tool. You can also ask XEVMPD e-learning training processes related questions. For example, how long do I have before my access in XCOMP expires, etc. For questions, please note that we do have an SLA which is a little bit longer. It is 22 working days, although in most cases we actually respond much earlier than the 22 working days. Again, it depends on how complex the question is. If we have to contact somebody else, if we need to do some checks in the system to actually provide a meaningful answer. And last but not least, the third most important form for you would be a report of technical issue with Article 57/XEVMPD. This form should be used only to report, and I'm putting a very, an emphasis on this, if you have a technical issue. So it's for technical issues that happen in XEVMPD, which is either the production, or XCOMP, which is the test environment. Also, if you have a technical issue with any of the additional tools that we have, such as the XEVMPD data export or the XEVMPD bulk update tool. And obviously, if you're experiencing any gateway to gateway connection submission problems, then this is the form to use. You should not report as a technical issue that your data in XEVMPD is incorrect and you want to have it changed, for example. For that, you would submit a request for XEVMPD services. Okay, so please try and submit your questions, requests, or let us know of any technical issues you have using the correct forms. Also, as I mentioned before, please make sure that if you are submitting a question, you reference the correct service and service offering value. Because if it is incorrect, as I mentioned before, the ticket will be assigned, unfortunately, to an incorrect support team. And it might take a while before the ticket actually gets to us. If you are, for example, submitting a technical issue, then please provide us with as much information as you can. Provide screenshot, the description, provide any files, etc. Because if not, we often have to come back to you and ask for more information, which again means that we prolong in the SLA. We cannot deal with your ticket quickly because we don't have all the information that we need. What I would like to ask as well is please do not submit tickets using incorrect forms, hoping for a fast response. So please do not submit a question using the report technical issue form, because the SLA will not be 5 working days. What we will do, we will close that incorrectly submitted ticket on your behalf. We will create a new ticket on your behalf using the correct form, and then we will put that ticket in our queue and deal with it as and when it's time to deal with that particular ticket. Okay, so you don't want to go back to the bottom of the queue. Always make sure that you submit the ticket using the correct form. One of the big do not do also is please try not to submit the same issue, request, or question via multiple tickets or channels. Please do not log multiple tickets for the same thing, or please do not log one ticket in EMA service desk and submit another one through Ask EMA. This always leads to unnecessary delays also because different teams deal with the different tickets in the different tools that we have. So Ask EMA and, for example, the EMA service desk, the answer that could be provided by the multiple people might not always be consistent. Okay, so this is also very important. Now let's talk about XEVMPD data in CTIS very briefly. So for your CTIS submissions, as you are, I'm sure, aware, you need the EU MP, which is medicinal product number, and also an EU substance number in order for you to be able to register your clinical trial in CTIS. What you, I'm sure, already know, the search in CTIS must be performed for the EU MP number together with the EU substance number. What is the EU substance number in this particular case? It is actually the substance number or the substance EV code of the substance that is specified as active in that product record in the XEVMPD. Also, you need to note that it is required for you to maintain the information up to date in CTIS. So if something has changed within your product and it does not lead to a new development product EV code being generated, you need to make sure that you update the data in the XEVMPD and also in CTIS. So as I mentioned before, EU MP number is the product EV code assigned by the XEVMPD. It can be a product EV code assigned to either an authorized medicinal product, which is inserted by market and authorization holders, or assigned to the development product, which is inserted by you, by sponsors. The EU substance record, in general, is a substance EV code that is assigned to a substance entity in the XEVMPD. And if you, as I mentioned on the previous slide, if you are looking for your product and for your substance, you always reference the substance that is referenced in that product as the active substance. Now, how to obtain EU MP number for CTIS in case you're looking for an authorized medicinal product? Well, if you have access to EVWeb, so the XEVMPD data entry tool, you can perform various search in the XEVMPD using simple or advanced queries. There you can specify which product you're looking for based on, for example, the product name, the authorization number, the active substance, and the marketing authorization holder, etc. You can then specify what you want to see as part of your results, and then you will retrieve also information about the product, and there you can see what is the active substance that is referenced within that product. If you do not have access to the XEVMPD data entry tool, so you cannot perform the search yourself, you can submit a request for XEVMPD services ticket using the EMA service desk, where you provide us with the name of the medicinal product, also with the authorization number, if possible, which country, in which country this product was authorized, and also the name of the market and authorization holder. What we will do is that we will search the XEVMPD, and if we find that particular product, we will provide you with the EV code of that medicinal product and also with the EV code of the active substance referencing that product. So you are able then to find this product based on this information in CTIS. Now, how do you obtain the EU MP number of a development medicinal product code? Well, when you submit the development medicinal product information in the XEVMPD and the submission was successful, you will receive the acknowledgement, which tells you what is the development medicinal product EV code assigned to your product entry. So that is your EU MP number. If you do not get the acknowledgement, or if you cannot find the acknowledgement, what you can also do, you can perform a dedicated query in the XEVMPD on all owned development medicinal products. By that, I mean all development products owned by your organization. If you go to the XEVMPD EVWeb user manual, there is a dedicated section with screenshots telling you how you can perform this query. So if you're unsure if a colleague from your organization, for example, 2 years ago or last year, inserted the development product information in the XEVMPD, you can go in XEVMPD, you can perform this query, and you will see exactly which products are owned by your organization in the XEVMPD. And then you obviously find the information about that product. You can see the substance number referenced in that particular product as the active substance, which means that you will also have the EU substance number. With regards how to obtain the EU substance numbers, I have already mentioned it. Sponsors, again, if you have access to XEVMPD data entry tool, you can perform search in the substance lookup tables. You can also go to the SMS portal and download the current substance list, current or non-current. If a substance is missing, then you request it to be inserted through the request for SMS services using EMA service desk. Now, the last slide before we'll have a little break. I'm not entirely sure if many of you attended the webinars we held in the previous days. If not, I will strongly recommend that you revisit some of those webinars and have a look at the dedicated slides, which I have also included on this slide, in order to determine which action, if any, needs to be taken by your organization with regards to amend or update your development product data in the XEVMPD. There are 3 important messages I would like to share. Please avoid referencing substances with SVG flag 0 in any new or existing owned product records that you may have in XEVMPD. Please refer to slide 20, where my colleague Pedro made a very nice process map with regards to the substance management service webinar presentation. It shows you exactly the details and if any action needs to be taken by you on your medicinal product entry in the XEVMPD. Similar to the first point, also please avoid referencing terms that will be nullified in new product record submissions or updates in XEVMPD. My colleagues from Referential Management Services also presented also a very nice slide, which is slide 44, during the webinar, where you can see the details and actions that you should take. And as we've mentioned previously, I believe a number of times, please make sure that you enter in XEVMPD your sponsor organization details as you've entered them in OMS, and also make sure that you do include the log ID of the organization entity in OMS in the comment field entity in the XEVMPD. Now, if with a slight delay of 5 minutes, I would like to offer you a little break. It is now 11:05, and we would like to give you 10 minutes to have a short break, maybe have a coffee, and I will therefore see you at 11:15, 11:16. Thank you very much for your attention so far. Hello and welcome back. Let's continue with our presentation. I will be talking about what we have done in the XEVMPD with regards to developing medicinal product related data and what are the activities that we're planning to do in the upcoming quarters and beginning of the next year. With regards to delivering efficient and effective regulatory data services in the XEVMPD, we are currently performing a revision of the published documentation and the processes in use. We will also, as part of this revision, we'll be making an update of the published guidance documents for sponsor. I will be talking about this a little bit more on the next slide. What is also going to happen with regards to modernizing data and information management, we are also starting a review of the current XEVMPD user interface, or as I've been mentioning, also called the XEVMPD data entry tool, EVWeb. And we are assessing if we could perform a possible technical upgrade. Again, I will provide further information related to this topic on the next slide. As you are aware, we have run several SPOR webinars in the last quarter and also the quarter before. And we will be again running these webinars, which are going to be shortened webinars, providing a SPOR update in quarter 1 and quarter 2 of next year. What I'd like to pay a little bit of an attention to is that we will be shortly sending our SPOR customer satisfaction survey to our stakeholders, where we ask you to provide us with some information and feedback, and basically listen to your opinion if you do provide it through this survey. So if you do receive the email from us, please spend a couple of minutes on filling out or populating this customer satisfaction survey, as it helps us to receive your feedback. It also helps us in planning the activities that we would like to do in XEVMPD, maybe prioritize something else that you feel is more important, etc. So please do provide this feedback when requested. Also, just a quick summary of the highlights of what has been done in the past quarters. As you might be aware, some of you who already use the XEVMPD data entry tools, we have removed or we have put a restriction on the submission of proposed terms in the XEVMPD. In the past, sponsors and marketing authorization holder users were able to submit proposed terms in XEVMPD. Standard terms were always inserted by the EMA. We have now removed this possibility So it is now only sponsors that can actually submit development terms via an XEVPRM in the XEVMPD from January 2024. As I've mentioned in detail on some of the previous slides, industry should request the addition of any standard or proposed terms missing in the XEVMPD through an RMS change request. Why are we doing it? Because we need to make sure that the data in the XEVMPD is of a good quality. Also, this way we will be able to check if the term really is not available in the XEVMPD and if it cannot be replaced by another term before we actually submit that term in the XEVMPD. So there's a little bit of a quality control on our side, which really helps with regards to the data that is available and then will be also used in, for example, PMS. We have also removed the substances section from the create and send product report section in the XEVMPD data entry tool. So as some of you might be aware, since July 2019, any request for adding substance information in the XEVMPD should be submitted through the substance request via the EMA service desk. This is nothing new. However, we still had the substance submission option available in EVWeb, which meant that some sponsors were still trying to insert substance information in the XEVMPD through their XEVPRMs. This obviously led to a negative acknowledgement being received by the sponsor, which delayed their submission, etc. So we have now removed this option, which means that it is no longer available and sponsors should only request any substances using the appropriate process, which means through the substance request form in the EMA Service Desk portal. What's next? As I mentioned briefly before, I will be revising and updating the published guidance for sponsors to make sure that it contains the latest information, and also it will be available in that one document, which I think is really important for you. We will make sure that we have reflected any changes that may have happened in the processes used, for example, by RMS or OMS. This revision and update will be hopefully done by the end of Q4 2024. If for some reason it is unmanageable to do it and publish this document by the end of this year, then it will definitely be made available in Q1 2025. Ideally, I try to make sure that these guidance documents provide a place where all the information that you need in order for you to submit development product medicinal information is available in the document. So please keep an eye out for this documentation. With regards to what I've mentioned before, we know that when users want to access the XEVMPD data entry tool, they need to download ActiveX, which is the software provided by us. They also need to use the IETAB extension. We are aware that some organizations are not very keen on allowing their users to download, for example, the ActiveX and use it because it's a software they don't know. Also, you are able to work, even with these tools, with XEVMPD data entry tool only in certain browsers, which is currently Edge and Chrome, and you need to use the IETAB extension. So what we started to do, we are assessing if there are any possibilities where we could possibly perform some sort of technical upgrade without having to use ActiveX and obviously having to use IETAB extension to access this tool. However, we need to make sure that there is no need to change anything with regards to the look and feel and the functionalities of the system. The security is not compromised. There is no need to train users, etc. So we are currently looking at the possible options. There is no defined timeline. We will definitely keep you posted if we do manage to come up with some sort of solution. As I mentioned, the goal is to make sure that the impact on users of this XEVMPD data entry tool is minimal. The look and feel is ideally the same. There is no loss of functionality. The security access is not compromised. However, the benefit would be that you could use the tool without ActiveX, without IETAB, and possibly in other supported browsers. So as I mentioned, we will keep you posted on any developments with regards to this possible upgrade. Very quick highlights for you. As I mentioned on the previous slide, Q1 2024, we have performed the technical restriction on the submission of the proposed terms. We also changed the process of how you request standard and proposed terms to be included in XEVMPD, which is to submit RMS change request to have the term added. Also, we have removed the substances section from the create and send product report section in the XEVMPD data entry tool. Our ongoing work is the review of the guidance document for sponsors. With regards to the future changes, we are hoping to have the new version of the document for sponsors published by end of Q4 2024. And we are reviewing the current XEVMPD data entry tool and assessing if we can make any possible technical upgrade to this tool. With regards to a slightly longer future, we would like to start at least thinking about the consistency review of DMP information in XEVMPD. I do not want to use the term validation of development medicinal product data because we cannot perform the same validation as we currently performing on authorized medicinal products, simply because we do not really have any documentation if the sponsor chooses not to submit the investigator brochure, which we can use as a reference document to perform the validation, the full-on validation. Therefore, we are leaning towards performing just a consistency review of the DMPs, for example, to make sure that the sponsor entity references the sponsor information as it is entered in OMS and it references the lock ID, to see if the administrable pharmaceutical products that are referenced within that product really are entered correctly, reference the correct substance, maybe, the strength, etc. It will be more of a logical review. Also, we are looking into how we could possibly perform a development terms cleansing exercise, because these, as I mentioned before, are still terms that can be inserted by sponsors. We also have some historic terms, which are development terms, which might not be of very good quality. So we need to see if these could be replaced to proposed terms or standard terms which are already available. Key takeaway conclusions of this webinar. You were reminded, hopefully, of your submission requirements. And I try to provide you with an overview of how the development medicinal product data should be submitted in the XEVMPD. I understand that this might not necessarily provide you with the full picture. Therefore, I would really urge you to refer to the sponsor guidance document for all the required information, and to the EV Web user manual, which also helps web trader users and XEVMPD data entry tool users with regards to how they should use the tool to perform the submissions. I have tried to provide a brief overview of what is the relationship between XEVMPD data and CTIS, and what you need to do in order for you to find your product in CTIS in order for you to register the clinical trial. I've provided a very brief update related to DMP submissions, relating the tickets that we have received and the development product entries we have in XEVMPD. And last but not least, you were reminded of the actions that you need to take, which is please do not or try to avoid referencing substances with SVG flag 0, and then all the terms that will be nullified in the future in any of your new or existing owned product records in XEVMPD. And please make sure that you insert your sponsor information in the XEVMPD as you've inserted it or as it is inserted in OMS, and also reference the lock ID in the comment field of that sponsor organization entity. To make sure that somebody listens to my presentation, I have prepared a very small quiz for you, which we will be performing in Slido. So if I can ask you maybe to join us via Slido, those of you who wish to participate, it's optional, obviously. So first question is, if a sponsor organization is missing in the XEVMPD, the sponsor should submit a new sponsor organization via an XEVPRM, or the sponsor should request the insert of a new organization in the XEVMPD via an EMA service desk. What is the correct answer? And I really hope that many of you will get it right. I think I've mentioned this number of times over the last hour. Oh, a little disappointing, I must say. Okay, yes, those of you who said that the sponsor should submit the organization through XEVPRM were correct. D, well done, you were the fastest one. Maybe let's go to the next question. If a sponsor studies in their clinical trial an authorized medicinal product in its authorized form, so in the same pharmaceutical product form, active ingredient and concentration of the ingredient, what is correct? Should the sponsor submit a DMP information in the XEVMPD, or should the sponsor not submit information about the product in the XEVMPD as a DMP? Well done to those of you who provided the answer on the top. The sponsor does not, in that case, need to submit information about that product in the XEVMPD. The third question is, if a sponsor studies in their clinical trial, that is the same one we already had. Yeah, can we please have the third question? In CTIS, what is considered the EUMP number? Is it a medicinal product number generated by CTIS, or is it an EV code which is assigned to a medicinal product record which can be authorized or development in the XEVMPD? And again, I'm hoping that most of you will get this right. Oh, well done. Congratulations to all of you. Indeed, it is an EV code assigned to a medicinal product record in the XEVMPD. EP is the winner who answered correctly and the fastest. In order for you to have a new substance entered in the XEVMPD, you as the sponsor should submit a new substance request via the EMA service desk ticket, or should you try to submit new substance in the XEVMPD via an XEVPRM? Brilliant. Although I would like to see a slightly higher number, I must admit, the sponsor should indeed submit a new substance request via an EMA service desk ticket. Well done, Anubhav. And I believe we have the last question. Who is responsible for approving users' requests for access to the XEVMPD in the EMA's account management portal? Is it the responsible person of the sponsor organization, or should it be an EMA data steward? Well done. It is indeed the responsible person of the sponsor organization. Do we have an overall winner? So this one is Anubhav. Congratulations. Now let's move on to the questions that we have received. I hope you can all see them and that my colleagues were unable to respond to. I will try to do my best. After company acquisition, should we insert the development products or should we have automatically access to the acquired company products? Or should we request access to the acquired company, knowing that the headquarter companies are merged? Thanks. So if you have acquired another sponsor organization, which was registered with EudraVigilance and had a separate headquarter profile in EudraVigilance, then you should request a merge of these organizations, which means that the acquired company will become an affiliate of the mother company, of the headquarter company. In which case, when you log on to XEVMPD under the headquarter company or the affiliates company, you will be able to find the data that was submitted by the company that you acquired. If this is not the case, then please log a dedicated ticket through the EMA service that's described in the scenario, providing information about the company so we can check with the EV registration team if the merge was performed correctly. We can find the data as well and see if why you cannot see this. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. With regards to clinical trials, should every investigator sponsor register separate EV product code for the identical investigational medicinal product that has already been registered in XEVMPD by the product owner? We get this question quite often. My answer to these questions always is, well, it is the sponsor's responsibility as per CD3 and the regulation to submit the information about the product in the XEVMPD, because it is a sponsor who is then applying for the clinical trial. So if you do have an owner who is already registered in EudraVigilance for medicinal product submissions, and that owner is then the headquarter organization, yes, that owner can submit the development medicinal product information in the XEVMPD. However, in my view, and I have actually checked this with EudraVigilance colleagues as well, we believe that it should be the sponsor that should be referenced as the sponsor in that product entity, not the owner. If you need any more clarification, again, please submit a dedicated ticket through the service desk with, a concrete scenario and information, and we will try to do our best to provide the most accurate answer. Okay, let's go to the next question. Can you confirm if an unauthorized product that is not yet in XEVMPD is used by a trial sponsor that is not the product owner, then this sponsor is responsible for submitting the product in XEVMPD and not the product owner? I think I have answered that question now. Again, it should be the sponsor that submits the product information in XEVMPD. If it's a product owner, then I would expect the sponsor to be referenced in the product in the clinical trial, in the development medicinal product, apologies. Is it mandatory to reference the location ID in the comment part when adding the organization XEVMPD? It is not made mandatory by a technical rule. However, it's going to be made very clear, and therefore it will be required to submit it as per the business rule. I'll make it clear in the guidance. So again, just to summarize, what you need to do, you need to insert your sponsor information in the XEVMPD as you submitted that information in OMS, and in that comment field of that organization entity, so not product entity, just to make it very clear, of the organization entity, I believe that data field is called 018, you need to provide the location ID of the organization in OMS. Is there a process to invalidate a development product if it is no longer being used in active clinical trials? How can the sponsor filter which records are currently being referenced by consuming system? So we do not invalidate. The only option to flag a development product as non-current in XEVMPD is to nullify it. I don't know how long it's been since the product was used in the clinical trial or not. We're also not sure if any SUSAs were submitted for that particular product. So it's very hard to tell you if that product can be nullified or not. We can nullify some very historical records, which, for example, reference incorrect substances, etc. However, I would ask you maybe to provide information through a service desk ticket. When you specify the product, you also provide us with information when the clinical trial was taking place. We can check when the product was submitted and then advise accordingly. With regards, how can the sponsor filter which records are currently being referenced by consuming systems? Well, if it's a product that is not nullified and it is available in the XEVMPD is not nullified, then any system can consume this product. Let's try and move to the next question. CROs sometimes are insistent on being provided the EV codes for AMPs that we are not the MAH for. Is there a way of seeing EV codes from other MAH? Authorized medicinal products which were validated by our EMA validation team will become automatically visible. Most of the information from the product, obviously you will not be able to see some confidential information related to the QPPV and the PSMFL, will become visible in the XEVMPD data entry tool. So I presume you are a sponsor, you can go into XEVMPD and you can perform an advanced or simple query where you can find this medicinal product, again, based on, for example, the product name, the authorization number, the MAH, etc. You will be able to find the EV codes of the products, providing that they have been validated, and you will be able to see the information about that product. So then you can share that information because it's an authorized medicinal product with the CRO. Where can we generally find SLAs of tickets raised to the EMA service desk? It is good to know SLA of each request types. Thanks for sharing this info. So I believe that in ServiceNow, when you go to the search panels, you can there is a dedicated article. So you can search for articles that are available in ServiceNow, which provide you with some information. If you type in SLAs or applicable SLAs, you should be able to find an article which is publicly available, which lists the SLAs of the individual ticket types. What I'd like to, however, mention is don't forget that the dedicated teams may have different SLAs applied. So, for example, for the XEVMPD team, as I mentioned before, for requests and for incidents, it's 5 working days. For questions, however, is 22 working days. So please have a look at the article. However, if you need to know, if you want to know SLAs for a particular team, again, you can request this information by submitting a question through the EMA service desk. Do we need to create diluents as DMP and XEVMPD, or the same rule applies as the placebo? So in the XEVMPD, for development medicinal products, you need to reference or you need to provide information for the administrable pharmaceutical form. If you need to perform dilution of the active ingredient, so if you need to transform for example, 2 forms into one, and that is what is then administered to the patient, you only provide information about the administrable pharmaceutical form and the active ingredient and the concentration of that administrable pharmaceutical form. So, for example, if you have a medicinal product, which is a powder for solution for injection, and then you have the diluent, I'm going to use water for injection, you have to combine this to create a solution. And you will provide in your development medicinal product the administrable pharmaceutical form as a solution, for example, for injection, and then you specify what is the volume of the active ingredient in that solution. I hope that answers it. Do we need to add log ID in all available DMPs, or is it only for new product records? So you do not add the log ID for DMP. You will add the log ID in the comment field of the organization entity. Okay, it's not in the comment field of the DMP. It's only for the organization entity. So when you then reference the sponsor organization in your development product records, when I click on the sponsor info, I will see the log ID within that sponsor entity, but not within the DMP entity. Okay, and I believe this is the last question. If the sponsor entry in the XEVMPD currently does not reference in comment the log ID, shall it be updated? If yes, by which date? Please do update if that's okay. I'm not giving you any deadlines, or we do not have any specific timelines. The sooner the better. The reason why we're doing it is to make sure that we know that the data in OMS and XEVMPD is synchronized, and therefore we know that the data in XEVMPD is of a good standard. Thank you. When will today's training recording be available? I believe within the next week. It depends on how quickly our audiovisual team can provide this and edit it, etc. But it should not take longer than a week. Please don't quote me on that if they're super busy though. Okay, I think these were no questions. I would like to thank all my colleagues who were responding in the background. Thanks, much appreciated. And I believe we would like to ask you for a short survey related to how this webinar went. Was I talking too fast or not? I'm always very conscious of that. Also, if we could improve it maybe for next year, what would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? I'm pretty sure that you would probably want us to have just a dedicated Q&A session. As you can see, that might not always be possible. So please do take a few minutes to fill in the survey. We will be very grateful for your feedback. And thank you to everybody who listened to my presentation. I hope that I have clarified some of your doubts and concerns. And have a nice afternoon and a really nice weekend. Thank you.